Welcome back to the Sports Source. This segment brought to you by A.G. Hines Company. Next season, we'll be celebrating our 20th year of covering the Vols here on the Sports Source. In conjunction with that, I'm going to be building a brand new set. And for the materials, well, who do you think I'm going to turn to? I'm turning to A.G. Hines Company, a company that's celebrating its 101st year as Knoxville's leader in supplying building materials to East Tennesseans. That's East Tennessee contractors, construction companies, and you. If you've got a do-it-yourself project, a home improvement project, by all means, the first stop you should make, the first call you should make, the first website you should click on, A.G. Hines Company, located right downtown on Hines Street in Knoxville. A.G. Hines Company. All right, let's welcome in the next two members of our panel. Longtime sports writer in this community, member of this panel, Bob Hodge.
Glad to be here.
Longtime sports writer in this community, member of this panel, Chuck Cavaleris, right down there, Nostra Chuckus. Thank you, gentlemen, for being here. This is our hot read segment. One question for each pairing. We'll start with Josh and Chuck down there. Let's put up some numbers here. On the left, you see what Tennessee's offense typically does for the year. And this was going into yesterday's game. On the far right, you see what Georgia's opponents have typically done on the year. In the middle is you see what Tennessee did against Georgia yesterday. And for the most part, you know, Tennessee was down, but in most categories, they did better against Georgia than other offenses have. The one exception being that run game where Tennessee was only able to run for 55 yards. My question, though, there were some folks saying last night that this shows that Heupel's system can't beat the big boys. This proves, it exposes that offense that you can't beat the big boys. Do you think that this exposes that at all, or do you just say you did better against their defense than most people do? How do you look at this?
I don't think it exposed the system. I think it was a reminder of what we talked about last segment. You need to recruit better for this system to be able to match up against the big boys. And a lot of that's going to be in the offensive line, but I would say the skill positions as well. But no, I don't think the system was exposed. I think it was a reminder of where the program is and that Tennessee is built to have a much higher floor against like a Kentucky or South Carolina or Missouri, but against better talent like Florida, which still has good talent. Earlier in the season, Tennessee had a tough time scoring points, moving the ball as much as they needed to, and the same against Georgia yesterday, which had even more talent and more speed.
Right. I mean, you just got a razor-thin margin there, don't you? I mean, and when you get a chance to make plays, you have to make the play. You don't have to be perfect, but you got to be pretty doggone good, pardon the pun. Georgia was just giving up 6 points a game, right? I mean, that's a big, fast, physical defense. And I tell you what, the people I talked to down on field level, they were really even more impressed than they thought they would be. So I think it's the competition. And they replaced, 4 defensive backs that were taken in the NFL draft. To me, that was the one area you might have been able to exploit, but you don't really have enough time.
But you did throw for 300 and something yards against them.
Right.
But it wasn't. You know, a lot of that came late too. You got some junk yardage after the game was already sealed up.
The red zone attempts, you can't lose the turnover battle. I mean, I don't think you're exposed. You just have to play better.
All right, very good. All right, second question. This one goes to Mr. Hodge and Mr. Overstreet. Let's go ahead and put up the next numbers. Tennessee's rush defense is slipping of late. You see the first 4 games, Pittsburgh, Florida. Now Florida ran all of them. But Pitt, Florida, Missouri, South Carolina, that's a pretty good run defense, better than we expected this year. It seems to be getting worse here over the last month. Now, a couple of reasons for that, but let me ask you if this might be part of that. I went back and take a look at this. I went back and counted up Tennessee's defensive snaps prior to yesterday's game. The fewest snaps in the SEC was Mississippi State at 525, and Georgia was right around there, like 550. That's 58.3 snaps a game. Tennessee was the most in the SEC going into yesterday, 716 snaps played, 80 a game. If you base that off 58.3 snaps a game, Tennessee's defense has played the equivalent of 3.5 more games than Mississippi State. Only 5 teams in the country have played more snaps than Tennessee's defense. My question, Will and Bob, Tennessee's run defense slipping. Is it because of that, or is it simply because you played your 4 best opponents, or 4 of your 5 best opponents in a row in the last month?
Well, I could say it's a little bit of both, but I would put it more towards you're getting towards this part of the season. I always know when you have a team that's taking this many snaps early on the season, look at the end of the season, you're always going to see their yards per carry go up. It's just a matter of time. They're going to get worn down, and as the games go on, they're playing this many more games, you're just going to see it compile. South Alabama is going to do better than some of those people when they shouldn't have a chance. But they're going to average a little bit more than you'd be like, how did they do that? It's going to happen. Vanderbilt's going to do a little bit better than some of those people, like a Missouri. So it's going to happen at this point in the season. They've taken too many snaps.
If you look at high school players that go to college, oftentimes they hit a wall because they've played more games. College players go to the NFL, they hit a wall because they play more games. So if you've already played 3 more games
From a defensive standpoint.
than what everybody else has, then yeah, I think that's going to make a huge difference. To go back to the opponents, if you took out the quarterback running against some of these opponents, Tennessee, I thought until the Kentucky game, had played very well against just the straight up run. And the quarterbacks had added a lot of those yards in there. What was it? Emory Jones ran for 100 and
It was way up
some odd,
Yeah,
and
everybody
Corral ran for
Corral ran
195. So some of that was the quarterbacks running against you. But I think just to sit there and have a team cram it down your throat, the last 2 weeks was really the first time you've seen that. And Georgia's, I mean, their running backs, my goodness.
It's
and they
year
just
in,
kept
year out
running
with
guys
them,
out
too.
there. They just kept running guys out there that look like, well, that's an NFL player. Well, that's an NFL player. That's an NFL player.
For their defense, for much of their recruiting, you can say that. I mean, Mark Richt was a good recruiter, but Kirby Smart has taken it to another level. The one area where you've always been good is that running back position down there. Rick had. It's like you churn 2 guys to the NFL every year and just put 2 more in there like shark's teeth. But okay, very good. Thought that was interesting that you've run that many more snaps than anybody else in the league. When we come back, all our VFLs join us, and we talk about Hendon Hooker's day. Wasn't great. What was the problem? We'll discuss. Come on back.